Welcome to Al Bernstein Unplugged Unboxing. In a 40-year Hall of Fame career, Al has chronicled some of the greatest moments in boxing history. On this podcast, you get to hear him expand on those memories and talk about the current news in the sport of boxing. You also hear Al interview some of the biggest names in the sport. Here's Al Bernstein Unplugged.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the show. Happy you joined us here on Al Bernstein Unplugged, where we get a chance to talk to the great names in the sport of boxing. And on this particular show, we're going to talk to a young man who wants to be one of the great names in the 154-pound division and could well be on the cusp of doing that. We're going to chat with Erickson Lubin, who, of course, hopes to win the 154-pound title soon. But first, he'll have to get through Jason Rosario, a former champion, on June 26th on the pay-per-view card that Showtime is doing, and I will be ringside for that, in which Gervonta Davis takes on Mario Barrios. And for Erickson Lubin, he takes on a tough cookie as he is waiting. He hopes to fight the winner of Jermell Charlo and Brian Castano, which is a fight that will be held in July, in which they will unify all of the 154-pound titles. So Lubin is hoping he can beat Rosario and then move on and win all of the titles by facing the winner of that match. And of course, if he did that against Jermell Charlo, a man who formerly beat him, gave Lubin the only loss of his career, he would love that eventual outcome. But a lot has to happen between now and then for him to make that statement. As always, helping me navigate the waters here on Al Bernstein Unplugged, and also helping in answering your questions that you send to me at Al Bernstein on Twitter, my good friend Trip Mitchell. Hey, Trip, how are you?
Well, navigating, just call me Gilligan. I'll be glad to help you out.
And I'll be who was Jim Backus's character on that show? I forgot.
Okay, the skipper.
The rich guy.
You're the millionaire with
the millionaire. I'll be the millionaire. That'll make me feel good.
Okay, how about the professor? When you answer questions, you're very professorial, I think is how you say it, but it is a boxing show, so we'll be close enough.
All right, well, I could be the professor. Yeah, true.
I had someone ask me the other day, on a pay-per-view, do you guys approach it differently than a regular Showtime fight? Is there much of a different feel to it?
Not really. To be honest, there isn't. You always have a total of 4 fights, so you always have that extra fight. Sometimes our Showtime cards are more often 3 fights, so you get 1 extra. And you're aware that it's a different, maybe a different event. But for the most part, there really isn't anything that's super different about your preparation or how we approach the show. And we're certainly looking forward to June 26th with the Gervonta Davis Mario Barrios pay-per-view, the one that will feature the Lubin Rosario fight. That one should be a lot of fun. It'll be in Atlanta, and Gervonta Davis moving way up to 140 pounds to take on Barrios for one of the secondary 140-pound titles that Barrios has. It's an interesting and bold gambit by him.
Okay, well, it should be very interesting, and let's get to the questions. Bodie Broadus asks, how do you think a mythical showdown at middleweight plays out between the 2017 Triple G and the 1985 Tommy Hearns?
Fascinating question. I really think it's intriguing. And that is exactly the kind of middleweight matchup would make you salivate because, in the 1985 version of Hearns fought a war with Marvin Hagler. And the two things that Marvin Hagler and Gennady Golovkin have in common are a rock-hard chin. And Hearns tested Hagler's chin sternly in the first round. And Marvin admitted he was stunned by one of the early right hands that Hearns hit him with. And Tommy Hearns went to war with Hagler, which turned out not to be his best strategy. I think the Tommy Hearns that we would see against Golovkin would be the Tommy Hearns that boxed for so many rounds against Sugar Ray Leonard. I think he'll want to use his jab and his height and reach and drop in some right hands and try and keep Golovkin at bay. Golovkin, as I mentioned is very hard to hurt. Hurting him has been near impossible, and he's faced some big punchers in the middleweight division. He too has an excellent jab. And I think this would end up being a decision fight. I think it would be exciting and interesting. Golovkin would try and hurt Hearns, who, of course, at a couple of times against big punchers was hurt. My own guess is that Tommy Hearns would probably eke out a decision win over Golovkin, or it might be more than eking out. I don't know, but I would pick him probably to win a decision. It would be a fascinating fight. I think it would be very exciting, and certainly Golovkin is in the conversation to win, but I think I'd lean toward Hearns in that match.
And you've had a lot of chances to spend time with Tommy Hearns post-career. Is he doing well?
Yes, you saw Tommy at the Marvin Hagler Memorial, and for the most part, Tommy's doing pretty well, hanging in there.
Okay, fantastic. Our next question from Roger Bakes. What new or improved technical boxing skills may Wilder have worked on or developed in preparation for his third fight with Fury?
Well, one of them apparently is not answering questions from the press, because he decided not to do that at the press conference for the fight with Fury. He made a statement and then let Malik Scott, his new trainer, who's replacing Mark Breland, do all the talking for him. They have an interesting challenge, because what can they do? How can they alter this man who's in his mid-30s and has had a full career already, even though he started boxing at a late age? I think the two main things are, when Deontay Wilder jabs effectively, he keeps himself on balance. And when he's on balance, he can land that big right hand, the one that twice knocked down Tyson Fury and got him within an inch of winning the first fight against Fury, which ended up being a draw. Fury just barely beat the count, the second knockdown. And so I think they're going to, and Malik Scott was known as a jabber when he was a heavyweight, and that was his major calling card. And then again, so was Mark Breland, who trained Wilder before that, a famous welterweight Olympic gold medalist and welterweight champion. But the question is, can they work on that jab and make sure that it works for Wilder and that it keeps him on balance to land a big right hand? That's what he's got to do in that fight. And so I think those are the two things I would concentrate most if I was them.
Sounds good. We've got a great interview ahead.
Yeah, we do indeed. Erickson Lubin, who is a fine 154-pound fighter, and will be taking on Jason Rosario in a big match on June 26th on the undercard of that Barrios Gervonta Davis Showtime pay-per-view. And it's been an interesting road for Lubin, losing to Jermell Charlo, being knocked out, but then putting a win streak together now to put himself in position to potentially get back and win a title at 154 pounds. Here's our chat with Erickson Lubin. Erickson, I appreciate you joining me, and looking forward, as all boxing fans are, to your fight with Jason Rosario coming up. It is the chief support to Gervonta Davis and Mario Barrios, but many people believe that it could be the fight that steals the show. You have taken on a significant challenge. You're in a position where you're number one contender, but yet you've taken on this tough challenge. What led you to fight Rosario at this point?
Well, I don't back down from nobody. I don't want any tune-ups as well. I want to fill my resume with great opponents to where, when I'm champion, I'm gonna go down the list and I'm gonna have beaten everybody in the weight class, and it's gonna be bittersweet to do so, and to earn, I'm earning every shot, every title, the title shot that I'm about to earn is gonna be earned. It's not gonna be given. People won't look back and say, "Oh, I ain't fight nobody."
Yeah, you've fought in general in your career a good group of fighters for sure. Now, in your last fight against Trug Gachet, it was a unique fight in so many ways, because for 7.5 rounds, it was very much a defensive struggle in which both of you were trying to pick your spots and And then all of a sudden, in the last 4.5 rounds or so, both of you erupted offensively. Was that kind of has that happened before in fights with you, where you see that both fighters are unable to get off as much as they'd like offensively for a while?
You gotta figure some fighters out, and it kind of it didn't take me too long, but I was having success with just the basics. I was faster than he was, and I was just more elusive than he was, so I was able to get off shots quicker than he was. I wasn't he's from the same pedigree as me too. I take my hat off to Terrell because he's from the same pedigree. He has skill. He's more technical than people think. He has a good high guard defense.
Yes.
And I had to do a lot of things like different. I had to, pick my spots, and so did he.
Yeah, that's a very good way to describe it, because actually both of you were technically were sound. It's just that neither man could get as much offense probably as they wanted, but it was an important win for you. I'm sorry?
Yeah, to just take what you can get in that fight. Just take what you can get. And I was the better man for most of those rounds.
Yeah, you won a lot of the early rounds. It just they were maybe a little closer than they might have been, but yeah, there's no question you had an edge. And then the last 5 rounds were very action packed. Now, you have put together a long winning streak since your loss to Jermell Charlo, and you're reading the quotes from you. I thought very interesting how you talk about how that setback kind of got you really focused on boxing and realizing that you can't take anything for granted in the sport.
Right. Well, I mean, coming out of the amateurs, I was highly touted, and then, they didn't put just anyone in front of me, but I was getting rid of some guys fairly quick, and I was just I was new in the game. I was young, new, and I just I let some of it get to me, but after taking that loss, it was a big learning lesson for me. And I just felt like, had to take boxing way more serious. I got the skills and put in hard work and talent together. That's real hard to beat. And I know what it takes to get there now.
You have a unique relationship with your trainer, who is a terrific guy. And you guys have, I think forged the kind of relationship that most fighters and trainers would want to have.
Yeah, absolutely. Me and Kev, man, we work real good together. He's great with
I should say Kevin Cunningham is your trainer, just for folks that don't know. But yeah, you two have forged a great relationship.
Yeah, Kevin, he's great with southpaw. So, all he's doing is just tuning me up. Or every camp we go into, even on downtime, he's always teaching me something. There's always something new that I'm learning throughout camp, throughout just downtime, and when I don't have a date. So, I built a relationship with Kev to where, we're clicking on all cylinders at all times.
You make a good point. You said success with so many left-handers going all the way back to Corey Spinks. It is interesting, isn't it, that, and all, different people have different strengths and different, I can think of different trainers and think of how some of them train a certain style of fighters even better. And and there seems to be something about him understanding the nature of left-handers, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. He's taught me things that, I haven't thought about doing as a professional, just different tricks, and can't tell you, but he's taught me some stuff, man.
Yeah, very interesting. In this winning streak that you've been on, in big wins like your win over Gallimore, and you actually beat Gachet and a couple of other really good fighters, since you had that loss to Charlo, it seems like you've actually, to many people, kind of even refined your skills. Do you see growth during that period for yourself?
Absolutely. And that was part of me getting with Kevin, just, learning different, being with a Hall of Fame type trainer like Kevin, and just learning new things. And, I got out of my hometown of Orlando, and just, I came down here, and I got real comfortable with being uncomfortable being with Kevin. And, I knew I had to take my skills to another level. And that's exactly what he's been doing with me.
You mentioned Orlando. It's the home of a number of great fighters. My good friend Antonio Tarver, who was my colleague at Showtime, and I covered many times before, and many other champions as well. It's kind of a hotbed of terrific fighters. Do you get the sense in Orlando? A great. I know you have a lot of fans there. There's something about that town for producing excellent fighters.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of great fighters over there. I grew up with many. Orlando has a lot of fighters. I'm right now. I'm leading the way though. I'm leading the way for a lot of Orlando fighters, and I'm sure it'll grow more. I'm sure the fighters will get exposed more, and they're gonna come out and do their thing.
Yeah, well, you're carrying the torch on. You are in a division, the 154-pound division, that is one of the 2 or 3 best in the sport of boxing for sure. And many of you, what's made this division great, I think, is that so many of you fought each other. You know, in an era in boxing in which sometimes we don't get the matches that we would like, nobody can criticize the fighters at 154 pounds, as demonstrated by you fighting Rosario, getting ready to hopefully, from your standpoint, fight the winner of Charlo and Castano. We'll get to that in just a moment. But this division is a great one to be in a lot of ways, to create big fights, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Me and Rosario, I started off with Gache. Gache, he's a world title contender. Even fighting Gallimore, a lot of guys didn't want to fight Gallimore. They feared him. Ishe Smith, he was coming off 2 good fights against Tony Harrison and Julian J. Rock Williams. And that's what I want to do. I don't want any tune-up fights. I want the best guys in the division. I want to show that I'm the best at 154 pounds.
Do you let's talk about the Rosario fight for a second. That fight is he's a fighter who only has, he lost his fight to Jermell Charlo recently, but wants to get right back into the title picture. He upset Julian Williams, who you mentioned, in a win that and had another upset win prior to that, which put him on the map. What kind of fighter is he, and what challenges does he present to you?
I think he's a good fighter. He's a former world champion, but I have to say that I think this is a bad comeback fight for him. After getting knocked out, I think this is a bad comeback. I'm not looking to give up anything. I'm looking to continue this win streak I'm on and get right back to the title and become a world champion. So he's in the way, and I know what I got to do. I got to take care of him so I can get back to Charlo or Castano, the winner of them two. And I'm excited. He's a great fighter. He has good punching power, but my skills are second to none. And I don't think he has the skills that I have. I punch just like him. I got punching power as well, but I just feel like my skills are way better than his. So I'll be able to set him up with a lot of things.
And you mentioned that coming back to face you right after that knockout, that's a tough order.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, that definitely is. After losing to Charlo, he wants to come back and just rush right into it. After I lost to Charlo, they gave me, this is my 6th fight. I wish I could have right back to Charlo, but I had to go through 6 different people, different contenders, former world champions, and he's also on this list. So he's another stepping stone to that world title. But I'm not looking. Don't get me wrong. I won't look at him as no light task.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Understandably.
Yeah.
So, assuming you win this fight and you're put yourself in a position now, a month or so down the road, Jermell Charlo is going to take on Brian Castano in another 154-pound fight that's very anticipated and should be a really exciting one. Number one, how do you see that fight going? And I know you want to fight the winner. What do you think of that particular fight?
I think it's a great matchup. It's another one of those fights. 154 is producing just great fights. Nobody's ducking each other. And, I think Castano's a great fighter. He's just much smaller than Charlo. So we'll see if he's able to apply pressure and just stay on Charlo or have better boxing skills than him to where he's able to come out with the win. But I think Charlo's going to maybe pull out the win.
Yeah, you lean to Charlo. Would you like to see Charlo win so that you could avenge that loss?
Absolutely, absolutely. If I got to be honest, yeah, I want to see Charlo win. I want my rematch.
Yeah, and you've talked about that. While that was a setback, it's one that you would like to alter.
Yeah, for sure. Almost 4 years ago. I was much younger, much more immature. Now I've matured way more, and then I got with Kevin, and just he's bringing something out of me that that wasn't there before. That actually was there, but that the world hasn't seen.
Yeah, and you're still so young. You're in your mid-20s, and you got a long time to go. So clearly, time is on your side as well. When you look at the landscape of boxing today, and the sport has been doing much better in the last several years. There's been a kind of I think a renewed interest in it. Do you sense that as a participant in the sport? Do you sense that the sport is making strides?
Yeah, it is for sure. Like even looking at the 135-pound division,
Yeah.
there's a lot of great fighters in that division. That's one of the weight classes I get excited for. 147 is great. 175 is great. I watch a lot of boxing, so I don't miss no boxing. I see what's going on all the time. 154 is a great weight class. So we're doing great things right now. And I feel like all the fights that should be happening should just happen. They need to make it happen.
Yeah, they're starting to, and you. It's funny, you and Kevin also, in talking about this, you guys have talked about how this fight with you fighting Rosario and the fact that all the 154 pounders are fighting each other is kind of the template for how boxing should be.
Yeah, exactly. Like the old days, like Marvin Hagler and Hearns and Sugar Ray Leonard and Duran. I got that old school type of thing in me. That's the type of fights I like watching, type of fights I like being a part of.
Well, you may well be on when you get on June 26th when you step in the ring with Jason Rosario on the pay-per-view that'll feature Gervonta Davis and Mario Barrios, which is also an intriguing fight to be sure. And before I let you go, let me just ask you, in terms of your maturation and what you want to see as your legacy in this sport, what do you see as your ultimate goal in terms of both weight classes and what you want to achieve?
I'm looking to take over boxing. I'm a huge competitor, and I don't. I don't see nobody, wanting it as bad as I want it. I want it so bad. So I feel like, it's up to me to go ahead and capture a world title and defend it many times and become undisputed and go up weight classes and just fight the biggest fights possible and coming out victorious. I had a setback with Charlo, but those are the type of fights that I like. I like the type of fights where everyone's anticipating, and, and it's my job to go out there and just come out on top. So I feel like, in the near future, I'll be able to go ahead and get those fights. Like, a fight with Rosario is big. It's a big fight. There's no world title on the line, but it's a big fight that the fans want. But, after this one, we looking towards a world title shot. And there's no doubt in my mind that I'll be world champion in the near future.
All right, well, I look forward to seeing you on June 26th. And thanks so much for taking time with me, Erickson.
Thanks for having me.
So Erickson Lubin showing us that he really wants to get back in the mix at 154 pounds in terms of winning a world title. And we'll see if he can do that, if he can beat Jason Rosario first, and then maybe get a chance at the winner of Jermell Charlo and Brian Castaño's unification match. We have some more questions, I believe. So what do you say, Mr. Tripp? Let's get down to business.
Rob Ovitt asks, in their prime, who would you pick in a fight between Joe Frazier and Mike Tyson?
Well, what would you rather? What more would you rather fight? Would you rather see than that one? I mean, I think that's that's the ultimate time travel fight to me. And, you know, I know a lot of people feel like Mike Tyson, who is a slightly bigger heavyweight than Joe Frazier, and of course is a good puncher, most people tend to give him the edge in the fight, I think probably. You know, I think that might be true, but I'll tell you what, here's the thing about Joe Frazier. If he gets through those first 3 or 4 rounds with Mike Tyson and doesn't succumb, and the power doesn't do anything to him, I'm going to tell you something, man. He's going to be hell on wheels for Tyson the rest of the way. And once Mike Tyson doesn't get his way with you, we all know good things don't usually happen to him. You know, there was a fragility there that took place at some point in the fight often. And there is no discouraging Joe Frazier. And Joe Frazier himself had some pop. So I think that fight, if it carries past 5 or 6 rounds, I favor Joe Frazier in it. But if Tyson could get him out within the first 5 rounds, I think it would be a Tyson victory. But you know, it would be one of the most entertaining matches ever that you could take a look at.
Yeah, and on the Tyson front, where were you when Buster Douglas had the upset? Were you watching home in Vegas?
No, I was at an event, a charity event in, with, of all people, Donald Trump. True story. It was at one of the Trump Plaza or Trump Castle. It was a Italian-American event also, which is intriguing. How I ended up there, I have no idea. My wife's Italian, so I guess that's what it was. And it was a charity event. Johnny Russo, who's a singer who had a role in The Godfather, did a concert, and we were all there helping make an appearance for charity. And I watched the fight up in a room with a bunch of these celebrities like Paul Sorvino and a bunch of other actors, and Donald Trump and his guys, and they were set to do the Michael Spinks Mike Tyson fight next. No, it was Evander Holyfield Mike Tyson fight.
Wow.
That's what it was. And here's Buster Douglas upsetting the apple cart. So they watched in horror as Douglas beat Mike Tyson. At one point, one of his minions said to me, "Wow, we're really nervous." He said to me, "You don't think Douglas can win this fight?" I said, "Yeah, it looks like it. Looks like it's very possible that he can win that fight." The Donald wasn't too happy at that event because they lost a lot of money, and they were not thrilled at the event and how it took place.
That's funny. And about a couple months later, Buster Douglas signed with Steve Wynn, and Steve Wynn gave him one of those ceremonial $1 million checks.
Yes.
And an hour later, he was over in Valley Bank trying to cash the actual check, and he wanted $1 million. And the people at the bank said, "We can do this for you, Mr. Douglas, but it just take a little while. We don't have it sitting around."
Yeah, exactly.
Only in Vegas.
Yeah, that's funny.
Well, speaking of only in Vegas, but not necessarily, this question from Boxing and Weed. Al, did you hit any of that loud pack that Snoop was puffing on in the Triller show, or did you just get a contact high?
Yeah, now this question has been asked of me in so many different forms since that show that I figured I might as well deal with it. So yeah, on that, I mean, it was a very unconventional show, and you know, I had Pete Davidson on one hand and Snoop on the other. They're both, you know, smoking, and I'm right in the middle of them. And I don't know if I ever actually caught a contact high during the course of the show. I did have a sip of wine. I drank a toast. That's the only time I've ever done that on the air. I did not actively participate in the. I'm no prude. I lived through the '80s. And, you know, so that's enough said there. So I'm hardly a prude when it comes to recreational drugs. But I did not participate. I don't know if I got a big contact high. Probably the people watching me on the broadcast would be a better judge, because it's conceivable that based on what I said, they might have noticed the contact high. I'm not sure. So I did. So anyway, that's my final answer on that one, and we'll put that one to rest. And since I'm not likely to do any more of the Triller cards, which sadly they're Teofimo Lopez, of course, his card with George Cambosis, the Triller card got pushed back to August 14th when Teofimo Lopez caught COVID, which I feel bad about. And I wish the Triller folks the best of luck with their product, and they'll be back on August 14th, I think, with that fight. And I certainly wish Teofimo a speedy recovery from COVID-19. Tommy Ankello, our good friend who has a great YouTube channel called World Class Boxing. We want you to check that out. Great videos, informative ones and historical ones. So we had a lot of fun, and we got a lot of boxing still coming up in the future trip, and we got a lot of great guests coming up as well.
And great questions from everyone out there. We appreciate them.
Yeah, keep sending it to us at Al Bernstein on Twitter, and we'll endeavor to answer as many as possible. We'll see you next time.